So I'll sort of follow that protocol, but
Love it.
I guess I'll just say welcome to everyone who's joined us. I see in addition, there's at least one other participant on the call, in addition to myself and Adele and Vito and Natalia. So welcome, thank you for joining. The purpose of this committee is just to come up with sort of a framework for social media policy creation and for District 20, for CEC 20. The goal tonight is just to talk about goals, come up with a plan, an action plan. I have a couple of other policies that we can sort of review. I've read them and I have some thoughts on them. These are from CEC 15 and from CEC 32. And then I've also read the city's policies on social media use, and we can talk about those also. And then just briefly go over the platforms we have now, and then come up with sort of next steps. And one thing I do want to add to the agenda, which is not on the formal agenda, is public speaking time, because public members are members of this committee as well. So, oh, my bad. Hold on one second. I just lost my screen. So can we, I guess I'll just sort of make a motion to add to the agenda public speaking on this topic. And I was thinking we could add it right before we come up with our sort of determine the next steps action plan at the end. So we'll give the public a chance to hear everything we talk about and then comment on it. And then we will take those comments into consideration and come up with next steps. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Steve. Steve, just to just to make it a little easier on you. I mean, we do not have a quorum. We don't have to second things. We just go about doing our stuff.
I'm fine with that. So we will have public Q&A right before the last step of the meeting, which is the action plan. So let's do this. Can you guys, I don't have, as far as goal setting, I almost think it's listed first, but I almost think that could come later. I would love to hear just what both of you have to say, because you both have a longer experience with using social media on the CEC. And so any kind of high level goals or sort of quick thoughts you guys have, Adele and Vito, on what we should be trying to do here?
I think Vito should go first. And okay. Vito, I'm not here to, I know your view, I think. And I think it's important that we put that out there so that we can discuss how to work that out.
So last year we had, or last term, right? We had a member, let's call him John, who was really bad on his personal social media, like cursing people out and like really obnoxious. Do you know what I'm talking about, Adele?
Maybe. It's so hard to remember. Maybe.
Okay. And so, it's really tough because my main concern, and some of it is CEC, the DOE guidelines that they had for social media. I would push back against the DOE or the city or anyone else telling me what I can say on my personal social media. Even as it relates to Vito Labella, individual CEC member who wants to advocate for whatever I want to advocate for on Bay Ridge Parents or anything else. I mean, I don't really, thank you, Dylan. So aside from that, I don't believe they have the right, like they're going to, the city and the DOE might say whatever they want, right? But I think they could be guilty of overreach as much as anybody else, right? They can say that Vito Labella, CEC member, has to watch what he says, but bottom line is they can't do anything about it, right? The only person
to that point, just to back you on that, Vito, I know that specific complaints were made against you, and at the time when I was president, and it, as by our, I guess, attempt at protocol, it was referred to FACE, and FACE didn't come up with anything that was a legitimate reason to censure Vito. There was nothing.
It's not even about me. I mean, even Eugene or John, whoever, who cursed people's out, in theory, the only remedy would be if he was an officer or someone was an officer to remove him from office, right? I mean, because
Well, if he was on our context of our page.
well, see, that's the question. I mean, the only remedy we have would be against office holders, and any conduct they did that we felt reflected badly on us, we could say just by six votes, say that we don't want you as an office holder, right? We can't remove anybody, and the city certainly can't remove anybody. But I mean, that's really our only remedy if someone says something we don't like.
That was very clear. We
Yeah.
have no recourse. We have absolutely no recourse. Even if we were to censor a member of our council for, and this is specifically, say they posted something on our Facebook page that we said this is unbecoming, it's unprofessional, it would be a censor, but we have no grounds to remove a person at all. There's no grounds unless there's some sort of fraud involved where
Stealing, right? I mean, that's about it. Like,
well, also fraud in the way they were elected. If it was something like that, then you can go back to and look for an annulment of. But as it stands, so that's where we were.
That wouldn't be us. That would be the city.
That would be the city, yeah. But we don't have the power to remove. We do have the power to remove somebody if they don't show up for their meetings. Okay, in there, you have the power to vote somebody out. It's specifically in our bylaws that if you don't show up for meetings and you're not excused, then you can be voted out. But unless, of course, we put into our bylaws that behavior, and that's something we would have to cover with Steve Weiser.
But we can't put in our bylaws can't override an elect. We can put in our bylaws if someone curses on Facebook, they get removed. We don't have the authority to do it. So our bylaws.
But is there a chancellor's regulation related to a code of conduct where you can remove somebody?
No, only the state, well, only the city, or it's got to be on state law, right? So that's why they don't do anything. That's why we have all of this stuff with the woman from the CEC who said something, whatever.
Right. Yep.
And no one can remove anybody except the state. And even what the state says is very, very, they're not very forthcoming, right? I mean, removing someone from the CEC is like removing any other elected official, and it's very hard to do.
So then bringing us towards, so what's the reason for bringing this up? Are you saying that if we post on our own Facebook page, we should be allowed to post on our own Facebook page, or you're afraid to have people post on our Facebook?
I just want to make clear that what our limitations are, right? What's the purpose of this? The purpose is to talk about our Facebook page and our CEC and who can do what, and indicate so everybody understands that individual members are allowed individual opinions. And, I think we could go so far as requesting people to engage in the same conduct that we do in the rules of conduct that we have, right? Professional demeanor.
So to that point, Vito, if we're jumping to that, obviously there's a first step of what do we allow to be posted. How we respond to the posts as CEC members is another item. But if we are jumping to the how do we respond to those posts, we do have the right to remove people comments as the administrators. That requires a lot of coverage.
Right. These are all issues that I've identified, like that we have to think about, and there is a distinction here between professional, and this is made in the city's guidelines, between professional social media sites and personal social media sites, which I think we should keep in mind. And I prefer to focus on the CECs as the professional media sites. And Vito, what you're talking about is someone coming on there and it may be a member of the council and they may
act unprofessional.
So Vito Labella goes to Bay Ridge Parents and says XYZ.
Right.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
This is not what we're talking about?
No, it's our Facebook page.
So then we're talking about Vito Labella goes to the CEC Facebook page.
Yeah. Or Twitter or Instagram.
Right. And so though any member, if the public can post on the CEC 20 Facebook page, then the member should be allowed to as well.
Of course.
Whatever guidelines are for the public should apply equally, not any more or less onerous to the member.
Well, they can't post, they can respond to a post. Nobody, the only people who can post are
Post.
the administrators.
Okay.
Now, you should be allowed
That's-
to
we-
respond to the post. I know you at one point said, were making the point, Vito, that why can't members post? Why can't everybody be administrators? I think that's what you were arguing.
Well, I
at
mean,
one
that's a
point.
different question. Yeah.
And and so to my point on that is, so I think maybe we should start, Steve, at the beginning. I want to
Yeah.
ask Daniel, what do we post?
There's these notes that I sent to you guys
I
yesterday.
read
which-
them.
Yeah, it
I got 'em.
walks through kind of step by step, like some of these issues. And I borrowed a lot from D15, from CEC 15 here, because they've gone through this in a lot of detail, and I think it was really helpful. All right, so I mean, the first thing is sort of, what are the official communication channels? And this is sort of just an administrative step in a way, but if I'm right, we have a website, we have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter account, and I believe that's it, right?
We have
And
an
then
Instagram, Natalia?
Not yet.
We don't, okay.
And what's interesting is
But
CEC
we
15.
have the account,
We do, right?
but it's like, because since Instagram is mostly pictures, what do we post?
Right, flyers, basically.
And by the way, 15's Instagram link was dead, and they said it hadn't been active as of last year, and it's still not active. So maybe
Much.
there's not a great way to use Instagram in this. I don't know. Just a thought.
So- Okay, go ahead, Steve.
No, go ahead, Adele. Whatever.
So the idea of what to post has always been an issue, and I'm torn with two things. And Steve, I know you put on there that District 15 only posts things that they can come together and agree on. However, we know as a council, we don't agree on everything. And does that mean we have to, every time we want to post something, have something posted?
Yeah, I wrote these notes not as my recommendations. but
Yeah, right,
strictly
right.
as, let's think
Yeah.
about these things.
So that's the thing I would consider is, and I really do think that you were kind of hamstrung in the sense that maybe instead of saying what to post, maybe we should decide on what channels we should accept posts from. In other words, if we can decide as a group, if it's coming from the DOE, we should post it. If it's coming from a
You see-
politician in our
Yeah.
obviously in our district, maybe we should post it, because obviously there's diverse constituencies that
Right.
we should consider.
Like this, they broke it into 3 categories of information, and that first category of information, it's just an automatic post, which is anything from the DOE. I wrote it out here as anything from DOE Central, anything from Brooklyn South, anything from District 20, anything that we send out as publicizing one of our events. Those are like easy things to just put up there, right? The politician one is interesting because
Yeah,
it gets into, one of 15's requirements was not to follow any elected officials on their Twitter account. Just
right. Well,
the-
that's easy enough, but I think we'd be missing some valuable information considering, particularly considering, to be fair, we tend to be bypassed on a lot of information.
yeah.
And if we want to be a source of information, then we should have those conduits.
And can we make it automatic that anything education related from elected officials in our district is an automatic?
Education and I guess SES resources, maybe.
What's SES? Adele?
Socially economic status. For populations in need. So
Okay.
it's usually economic stimulus, so they had food distribution at Senator Gennardis's office this
Oh,
morning
right.
or
Okay.
2 days ago. I would argue for that, for those types of resources that might be, help our families.
And is that
And
something
language
like-
learners.
Right, and sort of, I guess the key is to make it sort of easy for Natalia or whoever the administrative assistant is to know which can be posted automatically and which shouldn't be, right? Like,
Oh, and immigration too. I would put immigration in there. as well.
yeah. Like this.
I'm sorry, we'll keep thinking. Check.
I know. So
Um,
does,
Yeah,
like, of everything that our city councilor, Brannan sends out or Gennardis sends out, how much would not be appropriate? I guess that's one question I have. I mean, there's obviously some things that would not be, and where do we draw the line?
Politicizing.
Agree.
Anything that's politicizing and
Well, anything that he
Campaigning.
sends out, he has to be very careful as well. Like anything that he sends out as a council member has to be totally separate for what he sends out as somebody running again, a candidate.
yeah, but there's still that's campaigning, but there is politicizing that occurs within the context of their
Yeah,
message.
I guess you're right. Like he made a statement that he supported Bernie Sanders, right? So that's certainly something that shouldn't be on our CEC.
Yeah, and condemnation. We shouldn't have condemnation statements. To me, I mean,
Yeah, no, I agree because he's making a personal statement.
Yeah, and that's politicizing.
Yeah.
So, anything that would potentially help our parents as far as resources.
Right.
resource
Events,
messaging.
information,
Yeah,
events.
town halls, anything of that
Actually,
nature.
here we go. I'm just looking at this right now. In CEC 15, they say channels should have posts about events, announcements, and updates. And
Okay,
those seem like pretty, I mean, obviously you could probably try and squeeze different things into there, announcements. Could it be a political announcement, I guess, but
right. I would say
again, the focus,
resources, something
yeah.
specifically related to resources.
The point is we could kind of write this however we want too at the end of the day. So,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
okay. I think if we create the parameters for what we can post, what Natalia can post automatically, I think you're going to catch most of everything that way.
Yeah.
And it'll obviously, if we cover all of the politicians in our neighborhood, in our district, then maybe we'll get a diversity of perspectives,
Right.
hopefully as well.
Do we run the risk of having too much on there? I mean, there's how many city councilors are in our district? 3 or 4 at least, right?
Listen, it becomes a centralized place for information, which should help us to attract.
Right.
And it did
And
when we were really posting before everything blew up. We had a lot of traffic on our site, relatively speaking. We were growing traffic, and people were coming to it because there was information there.
Right.
I think especially if it's a centralized place for information, and information it might not necessarily get other
Right.
see other than other by accident or whatever.
Natalia, do you get information regularly from city council members, state representatives, state senators, like Senator Gunnardis? Does that stuff come to you regularly?
Yeah, I mostly get Senator Gunnardis. I get like the borough president, Derek Adams.
Like how much stuff comes to you just on an average week or an average month? Like how many emails do you get from them? I'm just curious for the average volume.
It usually depends. It could be like 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not even all of them. We need Manchaca, Abadi.
Sure. Yeah.
You know everybody.
So if we'll probably talking 10 or 15 different individuals, and if they get 3 or 4 a week, I just want it to be manageable. That's all.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to hit everything, but it'll be a start, and then hopefully maybe eventually we can get somebody in there. Like before Katie left, she was managing Katie was the internet. She helped with the internet.
Okay.
So obviously, not obviously, but hopefully next time somebody will have that. But I think we need the parameters in place where we know exactly what they should be doing. It's not run amok. Oh, here's my own personal flyer.
Right.
That I've posted.
Again, that just has to, and that's something, and I think we need, and this gets to another topic that 15 addressed, and I followed up with them. I didn't feel like they sufficiently answered this, but they started to develop a process where anything that was deemed controversial, quote unquote, would have to go to approval through the communications committee. And they never got to more detail on that.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what's tough, because then Natalia has to be in the position of determining what's and not just controversial was one word that was used, but there's also all this other information just relevant, right?
Or unpopular. It becomes that, and that's dangerous. I think obviously politicians have been elected for a reason, and they've been elected by a majority of our community. which suggests that they're gravitating towards issues that are important to our community. Not necessarily everybody in our community, but enough people in our community that they need a valid platform. So, you know, maybe some people don't agree with it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve a platform. Or, you know, and then, you know what, and this is where it goes into, this is where you get the debate on Facebook. You know, if somebody doesn't agree with it, you're going to hear it, but as long as it's professionally undertaken by our community, then they
Right,
should have a right to speak about it. And then we'll have a better idea of why people don't agree with it, or what other people agree with it.
right,
But
right.
that causes problems because some people are louder on Facebook. Lots of people are, a number of
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
louder on Facebook than others.
yeah,
Like you won't hear from our Asian community.
right.
Doesn't mean that they don't have a voice, but you know, still, it's, you know, that's we'll have to talk about, that is the responses that it creates.
Right. But so Adele, I mean, there has to be a process whereby we resolve something that comes in that Natalia doesn't know exactly what to do with it, right?
Goes to you. I think we should place, I think we, you know, we'll give a checklist of what should be posted, what shouldn't be posted. It goes to you, and in your, I think in your fairness, obviously, you know, you consider, you're the facilitator for the council. You consider whether or not it falls into a category or it needs to come to the council.
Yeah.
And if
So
anybody
the
has,
alternative,
if anybody
go
has
ahead.
a specific complaint, they would go to you.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now there is the, so that those are the straight posts, but there is the issue regarding the inflammatory nature of some of the responses that some of these, you know, items create. And we were escalating towards outright attacks. Obviously, Vito, you were a lightning rod at one point. But it's, you know,
Well, and this gets to the monitoring issue, right?
yeah,
And this gets to, and there's a bunch of this in the DOE guidelines. And as I was reading it, I just kept thinking, there has to be some way to keep things manageable, because you know, Natalia can't sit there all day and monitor this. I mean, it's just, you have multiple platforms. It becomes a full-time job if you have a lot of traffic, right? And some of the suggestions in the DOE guidelines are keep the comment settings to the more, as straight from the DOE guidelines, default settings for comments on professional social media sites and in general use more restrictive custom settings. I don't know
there's not
if
enough. What kind of custom settings do they have on Facebook though? You mean?
don't know. I don't
Yeah,
even
we
have a
tried that.
Facebook account. I don't even, you guys have to tell me how Facebook works.
Natalia, how hard did we try to, you know, kind of temper those response settings? I mean, really, Facebook
you guys
goes
try?
out of their way. Oh yeah, Facebook goes out of their way. You could take specific words out where comments are flagged for specific wording, but Facebook goes out of the way not to let you touch the comment section. I mean,
And then
no
there's always
offset.
ways around it too.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, the people get it. If there's a way, if they've changed it since then, but it became that issue of having to monitor. And there's section 230, which became a problem for me, where Facebook isn't liable for any of the comments made, but you are.
Yeah.
You know, which is fantastic. You know, it's but you can't hold Facebook liable. So I don't know, Steve. I don't think there is a way to limit settings. I think, I mean, maybe there's something. We could take a look closer, but
I mean, it's just what it's just what the DOE
Yeah,
guidance is, which it makes sense to me intuitively, but then they say the alternative is just the comments on the site should be monitored regularly. So,
yeah.
You know,
I mean, you should take a look at your Facebook page and see if you can turn off the comments, or you can do something with the comments. I tried for, and Natalia tried. It was
Natalia, yeah, and by
it
the
was
way,
getting violent. It was getting aggressive, and I get it. People were very passionate about it, but you know, I'm a teacher. I have a full time. I have classes. I have students. I have kids, and I have to sit there and make sure that somebody doesn't say something that is going to be slanderous to somebody else that I'm going to be held responsible for.
I don't
Right.
think you or Steve would be responsible for something that I say.
As the administrator, the jury's out on that. And I think you're going to see as more people challenge Section 230. And they've challenged it success. And I did research this as well. They did challenge it successfully, that libel law in England, in the Europe, of who can be held accountable for the disparaging remarks made about a particular person. And administrators, jury's out. It just hasn't been tested enough. And now that people are trying to test Section 230, I think you're going to see more of that in court. I just think it's a lot
So then
of
is the safest thing to
responsibility
turn off
for
all
us.
comments?
Do we have a legal, do we, FACE or someone else within DOE, do we have a legal resource? No? That we can consult on things like this?
We tried. I tried for a year to find out whether or not PTA volunteers could be sued in the capacity as volunteers. And it took them 6 months to get back to me.
Mhm.
And the answer was yes, but they can't, Good Samaritan law, they can't collect against them. I
Mhm.
said, yeah, but they can be sued. So you have to mount a defense. So if they're not really, clear on what you can and can't do about a lot lot of things. So you can
Anybody
go to
can
legal.
sue anybody.
You can
That's
sue
the thing.
anybody, yeah. And I said, well, would we as PTA representatives be covered under the school? And they couldn't give a definitive answer. Nobody wants to say yes to anything in the legal.
Right.
And they wouldn't even commit to me anything in writing.
Which is why PTAs should have their own liability insurance.
Yep. But so if we want to keep it simple for now, obviously, I do like news articles though. I love but I know that becomes a whole problematic. We would need the council
Right.
to agree on the value of a news article. Maybe that's something we can put at the bottom, but what is an automatic post, what's an automatic not post, and what needs to be decided by council, and then what the protocol for deciding by council is. Here is
Right.
something we'd like to post. You need to tell us within 24 hours, 48 hours, let's say, whether you disagree with its content.
So Adele, you
What
like
about closing comments off? Have we circled around to that? What about just keeping comments off?
You can't turn it off. You missed that one.
Who said we can't turn it off?
Facebook. You can't turn off comments on Facebook.
Yes, we can.
No, you can't.
I will say, I think we should try to keep comments on. I mean, that is the point of
You want to keep comments on?
social
You know,
media.
you know a way to turn off comments?
I believe so. Adele, can't you turn the comments off on our page?
No, Natalia and I tried for months.
Natalia, are you there? Can you hear me? Is that true? Did you try and you couldn't turn comments off?
Yeah, we're trying. It just would not, there was no option to do it, and tried to research online,
You
how to
Google
do
it.
this.
Yeah, if you
and-
Google it, can you turn off comments? It'll tell you right away.
But guys, this would, look, I know the comments are controversial and they create all kinds of issues, but this
No,
is
you
the
should have comments. But the thing is,
Social
what
media- okay.
happens, you can stop accepting comments can you stop accepting comments for a particular post?
Yeah, that would be
I don't-
interesting to do. Like,
Turning comments off, but I guess,
I don't
again,
think
that's,
we can. I think right now we have messages off.
I think that's
But
the
I
way
don't
our
think-
page is set up too. I was looking at other ways to set up our page that might allow, I thought there was a way that comments, why do I remember this from somewhere? Maybe we should put that as maybe,
follow up. Yeah.
follow up on that.
Yeah.
So we don't waste our time.
Right, because I agree. I don't, the worst social media things I've seen are the ones that go on for 200 back and forths between people that are just,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. And ideally comments are sort of like a moderated debate, but we know it doesn't work that way, where one person speaks and then another one goes and then you end the discussion,
No, yeah.
in a meeting, you can do that. You can't do that on the internet. So,
And it's become about it's not about conversation and
Yeah.
discourse. It's
no, I
become
know.
about silencing opposition. And that's not healthy.
I mean, this is definitely something we should look into more, is just in terms of how do you how do organizations manage this issue? You know, there's plenty of organizations that have to deal with this. You have to maintain some kind of open kind of social media presence, but how do you prevent it from getting out of control, I think.
Right.
Oh, Natalia, while we're talking about Facebook, I never got a Facebook login when you sent me the list of passwords when I started this. I don't know if that
No,
was.
it's not an actual login. It's like you have to have an account.
Oh
and they have
man,
to be permitted to be an administrator on the page.
you mean I have to get a Facebook account?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
You can make it so only you see it.
All
And
right,
you can make it just a person, just a CEC Facebook, really.
all right, perfect.
Or
So,
not. Don't do it.
well, I'm gonna do something, but so Natalia, that's what I have to do to get access to the CEC one, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'll follow up with you later. Okay. I'm just looking, let me look through this list of notes here. I want to try and hit on the ones that I really want feedback on.
What are you doing? Miguel?
Individual guidelines, like, is there anything else other than, I feel like the individual guidelines for personal social media, it's sort of outside our purview is the way I'm treating it. And
Yes.
it's, you know, what guidelines
Yeah.
should the CEC have for member activity on personal social media sites? The only thing that they can't do is identify, I mean, on your personal site, you can identify yourself as a member of the CEC, but you can't speak for the CEC, right? That's one thing.
Yes.
And I don't know if we've run into issues with that in the past, but is that a challenge to monitor? Do you have to monitor every council member's personal social media site?
No, it's not our purview. That was established with Vito.
Yeah.
What Vito does on his own personal page, of course, if he's, you know,
Speaking
If
for
I'm
the
saying that the
CEC,
CEC is, if I'm speaking as CEC, like CEC 20 believes this,
right,
yeah, you
that's
can't do that.
inappropriate.
Yeah, but
Right.
what he said, what his personal politics are.
But that's not our-
Unless, of course, obviously, it's behavior unbecoming if someone were to, you know, be spouting profanities as a representative of CEC, or, you know, that's a gray area. But Vito wasn't doing any of that. He was,
Oh, the other guy was. And
yeah.
they couldn't get rid of
It
him
became- it
either.
became- Yeah, I know.
all right.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these individuals. This Vito who you speak of, who is this? I don't
No, I don't care.
No,
I mean,
no.
So-
I think we should be clear to the one person that's here with us that it is not our intention to silence comments.
Right,
It is very much our intention to have comments, but a way to manage the professional.
but see, here's the problem with
Forum that
some
needed.
comments. So, okay, so I think then we would have to say that which comments are going to be allowed. Then only comments that use profanity or aggressive language or such and such will be deleted or hidden. And at what point will comments be turned off? That's another thing that we have to say beforehand. Comments will be turned off after, maybe put a time limit on it. Maybe after 24 hours or after 48 hours, we're going to turn comments off. So
Right.
it can't go on forever.
But we
Right.
should put at the top of our page what the posting guidelines are and specify upfront that we reserve the right to remove any what we consider to be discriminatory or unnecessarily inflammatory or derogatory remarks.
It just gets into such a gray area, right? I mean,
Well, it becomes very clear when somebody needs to be removed. I think very rarely did I remove a comment, but when it started, obviously personally attacking people and not
Sure.
ideas.
In a way, this mirrors our code of conduct, right? I mean, a lot of these
Right,
things we're
yeah.
talking about mirror the code of conduct, and we could tie the two together, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that should be at the top, so it's very clear. We also can do post approval if we want. No, we don't want that. You can have people submit posts for
Right.
approval, but I think we have to change the way our Facebook page is set up. I think we have the wrong. I got that from what was there previously, and I don't know if our Facebook page, the one we've chosen, is the best one for our purposes. There are a number of different ways you can set up a Facebook page for a business.
Right.
Vito, did you
So
find out anything
post-
about the lottery? Sorry.
What?
No,
Digress,
sorry, I just
Okay.
want to go back to some of the questions, the open questions I have. So, and I'll try to summarize this. Actually, Natalia, were you planning to take the minutes of this meeting?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm taking notes and it's being recorded.
Okay,
So
awesome.
it's like a regular
Um,
meeting.
All right,
Do
great.
you want to take minutes?
Do we
I
need
think we
to? It's
need-
it's
We
No,
don't
I
need
think
to
we-
take minutes.
we don't have quorum,
We
but
But
we
don't we-
can do a summary of what we talked about.
Yeah.
We can give a committee report when we can put a committee report on.
Okay, all right. But then I guess I'll just make sure I take good notes. So for the type of content, just to
Or Natalia
summarize.
can send you the recording and then you could look at it and make notes, you know.
Or
what you
maybe
want.
yeah,
Natalia,
Discuss on it now.
Natalia can make notes on the recording and then let
Yeah,
Steve look at it.
all right. So for category 1 postings, we want to come up with, so for the things that Natalia can automatically post, just to summarize, information from the DOE, right?
Mhm.
Information from District 20,
Mhm.
right? Does Brooklyn South ever send things out?
We can encourage them to. You know, we've been trying to get on a District 20's mailing list for God knows how long. Go
Okay.
ahead and laugh, Natalia.
Okay,
"Oh, you're not on it? I'll have that happen right away. And then next week, no, next month.
all right. And then
Uh,
any CEC, any announcements we have, we can send out. One thing I thought was interesting was 15 said basically, if they post something, there's sort of this whole issue of if you post something, does it imply endorsement, right? And just posting another statement from another organization imply that you're endorsing it, and 15 said it does not. And if they make clear that if they get behind a third party statement, they will make a separate statement. And does it make sense to have like a little language on the website? Because I'm thinking
It
about
goes
the
in the top on the
website.
posting guidelines. It goes with the posting guidelines. Posting does not represent an endorsement by members of this council.
Yeah.
But then we get back to, what are we talking about? A post from whom that, you know, let's say, yeah, well, what is a post that would say, that would bring that question up? It seems that,
GNT immediately.
it seems that would be a controversial post, right? If you have to think about it.
Yeah.
That goes back to, well, is someone going to find this controversial?
Well, yeah,
Right.
but it doesn't mean that you can't post about GNT, but same thing, you can't, you can post about anything else that comes out of different places,
Right.
but it
So
will be
like something like the PEP, that what happened at the PEP, if we just post about it without an opinion, is certainly, we don't need anybody's approval, right? The PEP denied this contract and blah, blah,
Right.
blah.
Right.
It's different than, we don't agree with what PEP did.
But
Right.
it'll be seen that way. But I think if it comes from, that's why we need our parameters.
Yeah.
If it comes from these parameters, then but as long, we can put at the top, because I know some members of our council are going to be very clear that that's what they want, is this is going to look like we're endorsing this view. And no, it's not. It's a representation of the diversity of views which come directly from these political offices who are voted in by a majority of persons. So obviously they represent a constituency. You're not
So
going to
Adele-
get everybody to agree.
So Adele, we would be talking city council, we'd be talking state rep, we'd be talking state senate.
Uh-huh.
So sorry, state assembly, then state senate,
Congress.
borough president.
Congress. Who?
Nicole Malatiakis is one.
Yeah.
So she's a controversial person.
It doesn't. Again, for all or for none.
Right.
And I think it really does come down, I think the tough part is going to be which types of announcements coming out of these offices makes
Right.
the cut. And that's where so Natalia's, and then we get into the process, right? And Natalia is the first line of determining this. And then we're saying it'll go to the president if she can't decide. And then if it's something that's beyond that, it goes to the full council.
Yeah, you, is facilitator. So events, announcements, decisions, at resources. Events, announcements, resources, what's decisions? What,
I think like the PEP decision.
yeah, decisions.
Yeah.
Event announcement, I think that covers everything.
I mean, I
Events,
think a really key, like for me, a real distinction, and I know this can be looked at a lot of different ways, but it's about policy versus politics, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
it's that's the way I would think about it if I have to sort of
yeah.
decide. And
Even pushing a bill probably wouldn't be something that we could put on our site because it's more political than it is
Yeah.
policy.
right,
A bill that has been passed
is
Yes.
that becomes policy. That's an announcement. Yeah,
policy.
exactly.
So a proposed bill, there's a proposal to get rid of Heck Calandra. Okay, that's, so what? There's a proposal to expand G&T. So what? Unless the council decides to support it as a council.
Right, right.
Or decides to post all bills, but that
Right.
becomes a nightmare.
That would get
Yeah,
crazy. right?
policy versus politics. I think it's about as clear as it gets.
Right.
And educationally related, educationally and resource distributive related.
I mean, has that, Adele, the second category, has that traditionally been an area that?
Oh,
that
absolutely.
schools have been-
Absolutely. Communal resources for language learners.
For language learners, for
yeah.
like education purposes,
Oh,
yes.
absolutely. Language.
More just,
Well, but even as I said, socioeconomic resources, particular food pantries, immigration services, whatever, medical, a clinic notices if something related to. I
isn't,
mean, what about COVID-19? What if there's something related to COVID-19? So things like that, absolutely. The resources were really important. Those were important. Those are the probably most important way that we could, although, how many of our language learners are looking at a Facebook page, I don't know, necessarily, but I don't know. But still, I think those are really important to get those out there in any way that we can.
yeah,
And technically that is educationally, particularly now it's educationally supportive, because how can you have an appropriate educational environment for these kids, which happens to be their house, if they're not getting these resources to support them, in their homes. So, but I think I feel very strongly about that. Absolutely.
yeah, I would like to see more like, so this would be, Adele, what was the example you said you just got? You said you just got something today from, was it Gunardis or something?
Oh yeah, it
earlier?
happened a couple of days ago that he was distributing food boxes, and it was a line around the block, down the block in front of his office.
And that's on his like Facebook page?
I saw it on Bay Ridge Parents.
All right.
And then I have a link to Justin Brannan's. I think Maya would have more of that. Maya Elephant would have things like that. We can get on her list, email list. But I thought it was around the block, obviously. And it's like, you don't think, but all these people needed food.
Right.
And then we have food distribution in, I don't know if it's still going on, but I know 185 was a site for food distribution,
Right.
while the schools were closed.
Do we get into, all right, so if we start defining it as social services and resources,
Mhm.
does it start to get into, events that are organized on behalf of a particular community, a protest, something else but it might not be phrased as a protest. It might be a,
Oh, here's an example of what you might be speaking about. What if we resources for undocumented immigrants? Is that something that we could put up, or that's something that's too controversial to put up?
Well,
Right.
no, I think that's that's a distinct policy, a very clear policy of the DOE, that undocumented students are protected.
Right, but what
Right.
about like some of the services they had where like legal help for undocumented immigrants? Should we
Absolutely.
post something that on the site?
I don't think they would be posting that, or maybe they.
He
But
does post it.
Yeah,
And
then,
certainly the
yeah, no,
politicians post it.
yeah, if it's a policy of the DOE, again, it's policy, isn't it? That's not politics, that's policy. The policy of the DOE is that you do not make a distinction in the documented status of students.
So I
And
guess I'm thinking about some of the things that the politicians might post, right?
well, then if it becomes obviously, Natalia, if it hurts you, then, if you can't figure it out, then send it up the pipe.
I can't figure that out.
Yeah, and then we can debate it then. But I think up until a point, 99% of what we see is going to be postable.
And I wonder if it makes sense, like if we start, here's one thing I'm thinking right now is if we start more broadly or do we start more narrowly? And, because this is not the final decision. I mean, I would like to wrap this up as expeditiously as we can, but like, do we maybe just want to start with maybe more narrow view or maybe a broader view and then?
Well, stuff that we all agree on maybe first, right?
Yeah, policy
Yeah.
versus, why don't we just keep it at that and then see what Natalia comes up with? And first of all, Natalia's got to get on all their distribution lists.
Perfect. Can we, let's do like a trial, exactly, and start looking at the stuff that comes across.
So why don't, Natalia, if you get on all the distribution lists and collect for a week, what you get, and then, put it under policy or politics and see what you come up with. And then see how, where you would put what you would put where. And then we can post, I don't know if you want to, Steve, I keep want to call you Daniel. Steve, if you want to, put down the parameters, like just, when's our meeting? Not next
The
week.
calendar meeting?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
10th.
Yeah, then we could, we could meet next Monday and go over that and go over guidelines, basic guidelines that we've drawn up so we can report to and show them what we've gotten in a week.
Yeah.
And see, these are the types of things. And then, we'll have the arguments about it. But again, if we make it specifically versus, instead of saying what specifically we're getting, just say, these are the types of things we're going to post. Things that are policy, things are politics, we do not post.
Right.
And we keep it separate.
Yeah. And just one more note, Adele, I'm not opposed at all to the sort of taking more of the resources aspect, and I totally get it. I just, I'm a believer in keeping CEC business focused on education. And I know your arguments for.
Yeah, I mean, there's an
holistic
argument that
approach to it.
kids can't
I
get
get it.
educated if they're not eating,
Understood.
Yeah.
But they also can't get
I'm not the type of, I'm with you on that, Steve. I just feel like understanding our populations and how much dire need they are in right now in order to educate their children. They need basic supports.
And then do any of these, does this category automatically go to the president for just a quick review before it goes out, or whoever the next line of?
I think that's up to you, right? I mean, depending
Why
how.
don't we see what we get?
Ultimately it'll be up to everyone, but like whatever we come up with has to get full approval. So.
Well, in a sense, unless it's not, well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think you're going to find when you see what Natalia gets as far as, you're going to see how straightforward it generally is.
Yeah. No, I want to see more of it so I know what I'm talking about.
And there were good resources. There were some really, especially for language learners and,
I totally agree, Adele. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
And once I think you get going and Natalia knows what stuff you really don't want, she'll be able to vet it more, she'll be able to learn and vet it, to your liking or to whoever's in there is liking.
Right. And so the key is writing up guidelines that, okay, I get it.
So to be clear, Natalia, you're going to get on everybody's mailing.
That's like an action item from this meeting, right? Is to get.
Yeah.
And you're going to
create the miracle of getting on the district's email list. Okay, we will buy you lots of candy if you get us on that once and for all. Actually, we could ask Dr. O'Brien. We could say see if we can get that tomorrow. We'll see what happens.
Sounds good.
All right.
I just have random questions that came up when I was looking at this. I just want your guys' opinion on the accounts, connecting the accounts. This is something that CEC 15 does not automatically connect the accounts. So for example, a post goes up on Facebook and their AA has to post it separately on Twitter. Do we have, is everything?
One thing with Twitter is right now they are not, what's the word? Validating. Yes,
They're-
in order
they're-
to post like the longer posts, and like I've been going back like every few days, and because of the COVID, they're not validating.
So
So like
it-
my
reading
personal
every-
Twitter account is linked to my Facebook account, but then they're not. So basically I've just been posting here, posting there, posting there, trying to make everything fit on Twitter.
Why don't we avoid Twitter for now? Why don't we get an acceptable protocol and then be able to apply it across the Twitter? But if we throw Twitter on there now, it becomes, I think,
How has Twitter been in the past for us? Has it
I never
been,
used it.
okay,
Yeah, we didn't have it until December.
okay.
It was still new.
The concept of starting small appeals to me. So I don't, unless the only thing is, are we missing a particular constituency that uses Twitter, but maybe doesn't use Facebook?
I think we have to build we have to regrow our brand. I think if we do that on Facebook and we do it effectively, I don't want to bite off too much. I think if Natalia can get on all these distribution lists, then we could see what type of traffic we get and what we're dealing with. You know, if it becomes just a platform for a few people to create, angry vitriol about, and it doesn't serve its purpose, then, what's the point of it? So why
Vito,
don't we
you,
get this to work?
yeah, Vito, you're a Twitter user, I know. How do you feel about the audience on Twitter, do you think, for the
I
council?
actually am not. Some of my friends are crazy on Twitter. I usually just repost what they do, and sometimes I think, Natalia, anything that we post, you could just repost the link, or you're telling me no. Can you copy and paste the link, Natalia, into Twitter?
Yeah, copy and pasting links is not a problem. Well, if copying from email, copying links to Facebook is. So basically, like if I post something on Facebook,
Right.
then I'll copy it into Twitter, but then Twitter, we have, because they're not validating, we still have a limit for how many characters.
Yep.
So that's where it sometimes becomes a problem, and I have to cut it down.
So
To
you're
make
saying
sure
the
we get-
link is sometimes too long for the characters?
Not just links, but sometimes it's more like explaining what the link is.
Ah,
That's where I have to cut down, make sure there's still the relevant information, and have enough characters left over to provide the link.
I think it's too much.
yeah. I
So
mean,
it's, so Natalia, the problem is with, like, when you copy and paste a link, you get a bunch of text, right? Like it might be like Department of Education announces application procedures for middle school, high school. And all that text is blowing up the limit, the character limit, to say nothing of the text in the link. Is that what you're saying?
Right, and then if we don't post that, what is this link? Where is it going to? Some people will need to know, like, would this apply to them?
well, I mean, here's the thing. If it's just Twitter, you could Twitter out just the links. People click on it, okay, and they can either decide then. If we
Right.
post a link on our Facebook, and you with an explanation and everything else, and I'm guessing it would also go on our CEC webpage, wouldn't it? Have we come to the point where everything on our Facebook should be on our website as well?
Oh, God. Oh, God.
It's a good question.
Yeah,
No, it's
everything-
something we should think
Yeah,
about.
but can we just focus on Facebook just for a second and then figure out the links of everything? I really think
It matters though.
Yeah.
and I would say no, probably
You'd say
not.
no.
I think physical. I think they should be used in tandem. I think the website's not living and breathing the way Facebook is. And I would argue that we don't use Twitter. I would say we use Instagram because we're old people, and young people are laughing at us right now for still using Twitter when they're all using Instagram. So if you ask young parents what they look at, they don't look at Twitter, they look at Instagram.
Snapchat, let's Snapchat them.
Snapchat, well, Snap, God help me.
I know, just so you know, I know absolutely nothing about Snapchat.
Well, I don't
old.
either. It's like
You're
another
so
language.
young. You're old.
But Instagram, you can link automatically, and you don't have to worry about character content. So and it will post at the same place, so you'll reach twice as double the audience potentially if they don't both go on. Like Facebook is considered the old person
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, so Instagram, I think Instagram is the one you want to populate more than Twitter.
So then, like you said, I mean, I don't think it hurts us if we're going to post something on Facebook, and even if you have to do it, even if you can't do the entire explanation, posting the link out everywhere, and then people could decide if they're interested or not when they click on it.
Yeah, but you don't even have to touch it. She just has to post to Facebook and it'll go automatically populate to Instagram.
Well, she
Does-
said that's having
does
a
it?
problem. She's not
Yeah,
able to do
you
that.
can,
Are you
you
able
can
to do
post
that?
to both at the same time. There's a way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you can
Yeah,
do that,
Instagram does it.
Yeah.
Twitter is
That's what
just
they
that
use.
because they're not validating right now, it won't allow us to do it.
How long has that been in place, Natalia? Is that like a recent thing?
No, that's like since we got Twitter, I've been trying to connect them and they're saying they're not validating due to
Yeah,
COVID.
they're different companies. Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same people.
is that what it is? Okay.
So you know, that's why I don't want to, you know, if we can get, why don't we just like try to stay small and get this task done. If we can get this up and running, like the protocol set, Natalia gets on our distribution list. One other thing is I would suggest that we look at the composition of our page. I know there are a number of different formats that we could do, like you know how Natalia, when we set up the Facebook page, you can choose from different formats. And actually no, I'm not an administrator. But if you I'm not an administrator. But if you look at the Facebook page, you can change it and it allows different things. It sets up your page differently. So Natalia, just make sure that our page is the thing that's best for our business as a business. You know, obviously we want comments. Is there one type of page that's going to allow us to not limit comment or moderate comments more effectively? Delay comments, you know, where you have to, and then do we want to allow, you know, posts, a request for posting where people request to have a post, which we consider at another time, and it goes to our council for, you know, to say whether or not we would have that posted. But that's dangerous. Maybe we want to avoid that. I'll think out loud.
Yeah, I mean, they touched on that in the 15 guidelines, and it gets reviewed by the communications committee. If there's an external, if a member of the public wants to post something,
Yeah, which
it
is
definitely
really
goes to review.
I think, you know, maybe we can consider that after the fact. Why don't we just try to run our distribution lists, see if we can get that up and running and link it to Instagram and see if we can grow our Facebook, you know, people who subscribe to our page. If we can get more, and you know, if we can get more information out there and make it a valid stop for information, I think that's a worthy goal.
Right. I'm still not convinced on Twitter though that that's not a demographic we shouldn't try and reach. Like at least include. I mean, it sucks that it doesn't link, but
We can.
I mean, just the numbers. I mean, what is Twitter if it's not young people? Who's using Twitter?
Well, not
Well,
Trump anymore.
Yeah, right.
Natalia, you know, come on, Natalia.
Natalia, are you tweeting?
I tweet once in a blue moon.
All
But
right. I mean, I don't. It
It
doesn't need
doesn't
to.
hurt
I
us
just-
if we're doing the Instagram just to take the link and tweet it out.
like,
That's
don't
what I
our
Yeah, but that's a
Right.
lot for Natalia to deal with if she's dealing with all these distribution lists that she has to generate information from. I'm just trying to make it something manageable now until we have someone who comes in and says, I have
totally.
to take care of this. I get it, I'm not throwing out Twitter. I just think Twitter is limiting in its capacity that makes it more difficult to manage, whereas Instagram is a no-brainer because it automatically links.
Yeah.
So,
And
you
go
know,
back-
yeah.
And going back to the beginning of the meeting, we said Instagram hasn't really been used in the past because I think someone said because it's primarily, you know, it's heavy on sort of visual content, photos and whatever, right? I mean,
Yeah, but if you look at the demographic, if you look at the attention span of the public, it works because it's visual and it's quick. It
Yeah.
comes up in one, you know, there's not much to look at. There's very few, you know, people don't generally comment on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right? It's just somewhere you go to look at something and move on.
yeah. Do we
So-
want? Yeah. And then the question you asked a few minutes ago: what content goes on each? should I take a stab at writing that out? Maybe just differentiating between content that's appropriate for the website versus, I mean, I don't know, would you guys as more frequent users of Facebook, Instagram than I am, would you say there's an easy way to say what goes on social media versus the website?
With social media, social media is more user friendly.
Yeah,
Website, every time you post something to the website, you have to move things around
yeah.
to comment. Like you have to find the space for it.
So like maybe all the announcements that we're talking about from the different elected officials, those are easy. Is that kind of your vision, Adele? Those are kind of easy Facebook, Instagram
Yeah, right up.
feeds.
You know, and then, you know, things that are more permanent should be.
Yeah. I like that. All right. There's also, do we ever get requests to sponsor or endorse specific events? That was something that 15 came up with a whole set of protocols on, where something will come in.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, they had a whole set of how to review something like that.
Yeah,
do
I've
we
never
ever-
gotten any requests for sponsorship or anything.
Like saying we endorse, we'll put our logo and our name on some event that's happening, and
Well, that's fun. That could you imagine us ever agreeing on something like that? Unless it's, again, language learners, absolutely endorse it immediately. But, generally we should
Right.
list those where we would want to endorse. But what do? Give money, or they just put their name on it?
I think it's putting your name on it. It's like, it's some organized event and
Yeah, it's dangerous.
they're added to the marketing materials or something. I don't know.
We could sponsor Place. He's not even listening.
What would be that? I can't think of any problem with
I'm
that.
listening.
All right. I'm good, I think, on who bears responsibility. So, all right. What time is it now? Is it about 6 o'clock?
7:06.
7 o'clock. Should we, I think I have a lot of notes here. I can write this stuff up and circulate it with everyone.
Do
Do we want to?
Doc for us that we put it in a Google Doc? We can put our notes on it if
It's
something.
there. Yeah, it's there now.
When you write up your notes.
I'll do it. Yep.
Okay. Or after Natalia gives her notes on our chaos.
Yep.
I think we were
Yep.
very productive. I think we got a way forward. Natalia, it's really on you. You got to get on those distribution lists. Actually, if you can make a list of the distributions so we know, we can tell our council these are the lists that we're posting from. And then they can complain about,
And I feel like, and I really do, I'll just reiterate, I really do feel like there's a clear divide between having the website not being cluttered up with all the elected official mailings.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
a lot of that stuff now, that's what we do now, is we say, can we post this on our website? And Natalia puts it in the little pop-up box. And every day there's another pop-up box when you first go to the website. To me, that's like not really the point of a website. That's like your Instagram, Facebook, where you get sort of the graphics right in your face, the attention getting things. The website, I would like it to be a very professional looking kind of information, like Adele said, more permanent, information rich about the CEC, minutes. It's like a record keeping, that kind of
With a
stuff.
link to our Facebook and Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can link to it from there. Yep.
That's it.
Cool. Do we want to see if our member of the public still on? If they want to,
Francesca, do you have anything to add?
Hold on, let me.
Francisca
my-
there? I thought I saw
Natalia, you can.
for a second.
Let me see.
I don't know if Francisca's there.
Natalia, can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Oh, there we go.
Just-
Oh, you there,
There you
Francisca?
are.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. I no, there was a message that said unmute and
Oh, yes. We want to know if you have anything to say. Do you have anything you want to?
oh no, I mean the things that we would kind of hear in that Facebook is, I mean, like you said, we older people and we're in our 50s, and we use Facebook, but now it's not. It's Twitter, and now someone said that the kids are now using more Instagram, which I do not know how to use it at all.
Well, that's the point, right?
Yeah,
I don't use Instagram either.
yeah, I
Facebook.
don't know how to use it. Don't know how to get in there, and
Could I
don't
ask-
know how to post.
What would you want to see on our Facebook page? What type of resources? What would you like to see for families in our district?
The email sounds good that this gentleman was talking about, to put a District 20,
Uh-huh.
to put on everything. But I do not use my own Facebook. I use my wife's. Excuse me. And should we give you Facebook? Because I mean, we still use Yahoo email.
No,
Yeah.
well, we have to set it up. You could look at our CEC website, our CEC Facebook page. But what we want to do is we want to make it more useful for you so that you get a lot of information about the district in one place.
That sounds good. Yes.
Right? And then you would be able to subscribe to it. And then you would get notifications that you would get, that would say there's something new happened here. You can listen to, you'll see the postings come up, and it might be from the superintendent. It might be from Senator Gennardis's office. It might be from different schools having different events. So you can get a
That's
lot of
awesome.
information that would help you.
No, that sounds good. That sounds awesome to me.
Okay.
Which school do you have children at?
We do have two. One in Edward Shallow.
Yeah.
It's an intermediate school. And then now my kid is going to high school to secondary.
Brooklyn Studio. Brooklyn
Brook-
Studio.
Brooklyn Studio.
Okay.
Brooklyn, where is it? Brooklyn?
Brooklyn Studio.
Secondary Brooklyn Studio. I mean, studio.
Yeah, and so we, as the council, we could post notices about admission. Oh, nice! Oh, congratulations! Congratulations! That's a very stressful process getting, getting your child situated in a new school.
Yeah.
Just very good. Very excited for him. Very
Thank
nice. So we would let, we could post things for you about admissions, how to get your child admitted into schools, resources for your child in middle school that he might want to know. Anything that we get from the city, from the chancellor, we would post there, and things like that, things that might be helpful to you.
One thing that my kid has to use the bus to get to the high school. I
Yep.
mean, right now they're learning from home, but I mean, when it comes back to like going to actually high school, going there, do we get help from student MetroCard?
They still get you still get a Metro card. Your son will get a Metro if he's 2 miles, Vito.
I think it's
Mile,
two.
he's how far away is your son from school?
About 20 blocks.
Oh,
20.
maybe not then.
Maybe
Yes.
not. If it's there's a certain measurement that they use. Otherwise, you get a free Metro card.
When
Well,
I was in high school, it was
25 blocks.
25 blocks.
more than a mile, you got a full fare. If you lived half a mile, you got like the half fare. And and of course, if you lived like a few blocks, they didn't give you one.
Yeah, my sons
Yeah.
all had Metro cards, but we were more than a mile from the school.
I think it's more than a mile.
Yeah, I think
because,
so. I think 25 blocks is a mile.
Yeah, 25 blocks sounds like more than a mile.
And that there was a something, obviously we could post from, regarding transportation for students. There's so many things, there's so many resources that aren't necessarily specifically about quote unquote education, but they are, resources that parents need that won't necessarily show. Even a snow day, snow removal would be something, I think for me, something important, what the city says about snow. Yeah, thank you. That's very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
So what's next?
I think we're good. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else that anyone wants to share? I mean, next steps, I've got, a variety of next steps. I won't try to recap them all right here, but basically it involves following up, getting the distribution lists going, writing within the next week, I'll write down our guidelines, sort of the guidelines for what content we want to post on each site. We will circulate that among everyone, and then we'll try to come up with, actually, and we should, is this okay to ask? So can I just get your names officially? So is it,
Delgados.
yeah, the Delgados, they are members of the committee too. So do we now get their email and then circulate things with them? Because the way I read it is committees can be comprised of council members
Do they
and
want to be a
parents.
part of the committee?
If they
Right.
want to,
Do they want to be a part of the committee, or are they?
they could just observe. It's up to them.
Yeah, would,
Yeah,
Is that-
well, actually, she's the PTA president.
Oh, yay!
great.
In shallow,
so-
So PTA.
Yeah.
I was a PTA president for years. Oh, so is he. So is Vito. Yay!
So would you guys like us to include you sort of on the email over the next week? We'll be emailing about some of the follow-ups. Would you like us to include you on that, those emails?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, but.
Totally up to
it's
you. You don't
the
have to.
PTA. Yeah,
Say again?
well, she's the PTA president. I'm just,
we can find her in
translating
shallow.
for-
We should have her. We should have her email address, right? Or we don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
Well-
yes, yes.
Delgado, do we have your email address?
I think so, because Ms. Nieves, she works with the school.
Parent coordinator, this.
Yeah.
At Shell.
Parent
Oh,
coordinator.
you're the parent coordinator at the school too?
No, Ms. Nieves. She's the one who sent us the email, the link.
Oh, that's fantastic. At Shallow?
Yes, that's
Linda-
Shallow.
Oh, that's
Linda
wonderful.
Ned,
How is
Linda,
your
and-
PTA doing, Miss Delgado?
I'm sorry?
How is your PTA doing?
Well, we're not going to, like before, they used to do selling
Yeah,
ice cream,
Nothing else, right?
cookies,
Yeah.
candies, this and that, but now we can't because the school is closed.
All right. Can we have your email for so that Natalia can send the follow-up to you?
Sure. She uses the Yahoo mail. Is that good? Yeah.
Sure. Natalia, you want to take that down?
I
Yeah.
couldn't,
Okay.
If it would be
You wanna
easier, you
put
can
it
just
in the
type it
chat?
in the chat box.
Okay.
I couldn't.
She's doing so.
There. Okay. No.
perfect. So anyway, I'll just go back to so I'll just circulate things over the next week. We'll touch base next Monday.
Okay. Did you get it?
All right, I got it.
Oh, thanks.
Nice. I think that covers it. Do you guys think
Um,
there's anything?
Oh, that what we had almost for a second. We had the principal at 185 here.
Oh, I
yeah.
just saw her leave. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I think there's a lot I think it definitely it's targeted. I think if maybe even if we can list out an example of the resources that the types of, that we would like, there's so many, as the Delgado said, regarding transportation is important, obviously, anything posting from the city about snow removal, return to school, obviously de Blasio's, if it's policy, we could post from de Blasio if it's policy and not, just.
Right.
practices.
And I think the goal should be for next Monday to come up with sort of some kind of categorization of information. And
Yeah.
we've sort of talked around it a number of different ways tonight, but I think having the information like Natalia over the next week, everything that comes in, it'll give us good sort of, a working sample to actually focus on.
And maybe you even want to browse, site,
Yeah.
municipalities or DOE department, or not DOE, city departments that might be, housing might
Yep.
be important, obviously for our students in temporary housing.
Yep.
We want to consider where that information, D75, where were they getting the information from D75? We want that information as well. There's a lot of different resources. So maybe you can put together a list as you go along and make it a living, and then we'll populate it as well as we come up with anything.
Right.
We'll try to touch on
Do we
all
do, Adele, you just mentioned D75, the
75, health,
ELL, there's the high school, the
Ha-
citywide
yep.
high school committee.
Department of
There's,
Health.
yeah, Department of Health. Can we not go to that one just yet?
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Why,
I
you
just
don't
want to make
talk about
this
COVID
manageable,
testing?
like,
Guys, I actually have to run. Thank you.
All
I'll
right.
see you later.
Hi, Vito.
bye,
Bye.
Vito.
Hi.
Hi.
What if the Department of Health says that we should put on, the kids should be back in school?
Won't that come to the DOE? I imagine the DOE would.
Yeah, I'm sure they have to get approval from the UFT. Well, wait, I said that out loud. Okay, all right, enough. All right, we'll go.
It's a work in progress,
Yes,
right?
yes, and yes,
Okay.
I agree. But I, and let's see what comes up. Let's see what kind of
Right.
resources that they have.
Because I agree with the principle of getting more traffic. I totally agree with that. Like, it's critical. It
I
doesn't
think
matter.
parents need I think parents are overwhelmed and they need a one-stop shop for resources, and I think they
Right.
can do that.
Right.
you
Okay.
know, importantly. Okay, all right.
Sounds good. All right. Motion to
No,
adjourn.
no need to, no. Good night. Mr. and Mrs. Delgado, it was very nice meeting you.
Yes.
Thank you for your
Likewise.
service,
Thank-
Delgado. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Very much. Okay.
Have a good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Good night.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Bye.
And stay
Thank you.
warm.
Stay warm.
Good night.
You too.
You too.